All right, good afternoon. As discussed, we are here today talking about the Risk Safeguard Advantage podcast. We Love Trucks Special Edition. Again, to my right, Chris Maxwell, President, CEO.
Good afternoon.
Rhode Island Trucking Association. Chris, again, why don't you, for the viewers out there, why don't you give a brief description of what's sitting behind us here?
Real briefly, this is our cover mock-up for our second version of the Road Warrior magazine, which the initial inaugural edition came out in January. This one will come out after Labor Day. This is less editorial content, but it's going to be more a business-to-business marketplace to allow our members to network, to showcase their brand and their services. So hopefully you support it. It's going to be hopefully as successful as the first one, which we got some rave reviews on. So you'll get two great publications a year. The Road Warrior magazine.
Oh, beautiful, and the American colors for the American industry trucking. I love it. You did a great job.
Absolutely. That's actually superimposed over a truck stop, an aerial view of the truck stop. So pretty cool. You get some great graphic design partners in this endeavor.
Beautiful. All right, as mentioned, we are going to talk a lot about things impacting the trucking industry today. Quick recap. Today at Rhode, we had a good training put on by Mike Klinsky.
Yes.
Talking about the reduction of CSA scores, which
Yeah.
ties hand in hand to what we do at Sinclair, risk management.
Right.
Anything you want to say about the training, Chris?
Yeah, Mike is our in-house training expert, along with the folks at Sinclair, Nate Daniel and Matt Leonard. But in this case, Mike's 29 years in enforcement really gives him an introspective insight on this. CSA score really is it's your report card, and long story short, the lower your CSA score, the better you are from a compliance standpoint, a regulatory standpoint, and a marketability and insurability standpoint. So Mike basically went through all the factors that contribute, all the mitigating steps you can take to improve your score. He went one by one through all the carriers that were present and kind of did a deep dive into their safer score and the profile that's online under Federal Motor Carrier Safety. So safer website. So just a great subject matter that really tied into the webinar that Sinclair provided last year, which was really aimed at showing the nuts and bolts of how you, again, improve your standing and your carrier status to make you more marketable and make you more insurable to ultimately improve your safety, which hand in hand improves your profitability, especially from an insurance standpoint. So we've got these great trainings going on. My hope is that people realize that they are taking place. All our trainings are free of charge. They come as a member benefit. But don't be apathetic about safety, especially when it comes to trucks. Trucks are your biggest exposure out there, whether you're in the trucking business or you're in another business and you further that business through trucks. This is your greatest exposure. So whether you're a safety director, a frontline person in the operation, or especially an owner, you need to have people present at these trainings. The information is invaluable. It's maybe a couple of hours out of the day, but you need to participate for the long haul, no pun intended, or pun intended perhaps.
Yeah, good. And one of the things that we did last week for the members of Rhode Island Trucking, we put on a webinar for proactive fleet managers, steps they can take well in advance of their insurance renewal to equip them to come out of that renewal process as best they possibly can. We know the insurance marketplace has not been favorable to fleet operators, and frankly has not really been particularly favorable to any operation the past year. But one thing that we do at Sinclair as part of our risk management assessment process is we do an assessment, a deep dive on every prospective client that we're going to talk to. And CSA scores are a big one we look at, especially when it comes to heavy fleets, because we know underwriters hone right in on that as a pass or fail of whether they're even going to proceed with quoting the account based on that report card that you mentioned, Chris. And so it's important as fleet operators, if you have a large fleet, you got to know your scores. And more importantly, you have to know the proactive steps you have to take to correct those scores so that by the time an insurance underwriter is getting your account on their desk, they're taking those scores and saying, this is a good operation, I want to get aggressive with pricing. That was just one of the many things we talked about last week. And every time, Chris, we get together, we talk about how much we love trucks. Mm-hmm. I wear my button, you got your pin. We've got our American flag behind us. That's what we think of the trucking industry. Unfortunately, right now, you can kind of say insurance companies don't love trucks.
No.
And as insurance and risk management advisors, we love trucks. We understand that trucks keep this country moving forward. So our goal in working in partnership with you, Chris, is to allow as many trucking operators continue to operate safely, undisrupted, and that's what all of our services go towards. One of the issues that we see coming down the pike in the House of Representatives is a proposed increase to the minimum insurance requirements.
Mhm.
And I think it's important for our viewers every week to understand that that is not going to impact the big trucking operators out there. It is going to hammer the small guys.
Mhm.
You want to comment on that at all?
Well, this is clearly under deliberation as part of the highway reauthorization and all that goes with that. Obviously, that is talking about how to fund infrastructure, but there are obviously underpinnings of that, and one of them has to do with things like 18 to 21-year-old drivers, which looks like it's going to go through the pilot plan under the Drive Safe Act. Another thing under consideration, as you mentioned, is an increase in minimum insurance standards from $750,000 up to $2 million. Most carriers are probably paying over $750,000, maybe $1 million, or what's required of the shipper or the entity they're working for. But what is troublesome from this, and the Owner Operators Independent Drivers Association, who represents millions of owner operators around the country, and ATA are working heavily in concert with one another to push back on this, for a couple of reasons. Simply put, number one, as John said, can small operators afford this bump in insurance? Perhaps not. Number two, is the situation such that your claims now have a new higher ceiling, just naturally? You went from $750,000 to $2 million. That's $1,250,000 more room under the ceiling of insurance that's there for the taking, if you will. The other factor, the biggest factor that we're concerned about is the fact there's no evidence, there's no forensic science, there's no data that is driving the need for this increase. It just seems like a unilateral across-the-board decision, which unfortunately, most decisions that are made that are not in the interest of the trucking industry are made by people that have no clue about the internal operations and what we pay, what we do in terms of safety, partnerships, things like that. So those are the factors. I think we're going to beat it back. My hope is that we will. But this is what we're up against, just unilateral, a bad culture that basically keeps piling more and more layers of expense and obligation onto us. But, you know, that's why we have this relationship with Sinclair. We're in this for the long haul. Clearly, we're encouraging carriers, whether it's with Sinclair, and we certainly endorse them, or another carrier, make sure you don't shop your insurance every year. And that was one of the things that was really pressed upon in the webinar. Don't just go to the low bid every year. Develop a long-term strategy, a long-term relationship. Sinclair has hired the best and brightest people from the front lines of safety, people that have had success, people that have driven down numbers that have resulted in millions of dollars of savings in insurability and competitiveness. Develop that long-term relationship and have somebody that's going to stick with you and have you back, and that's why we endorse Sinclair as our insurance partner.
Well, thank you for that, Chris. That was more than I bargained for having you on the show today, but I appreciate it.
Listen.
So we just talked about a hypothetical bill in Congress.
Yep.
Let's talk about two actual bills to our neighboring state. We're here in Rhode Island.
Yep.
Our neighboring state, Connecticut, very recently passed a highway user fee.
Yep.
That's going to be punitive on truck operators. And live time today, Tuesday, June 22nd, I believe, Governor Lamont, Governor of Connecticut, signed into a recreational marijuana use law, something that has broad-ranging implications on not just trucking operators, but any safety-sensitive company, having their employees now being able to recreationally use marijuana in their private life, but broad-ranging effects on them at work and how they're going to be allowed to, or lack thereof, conduct their job function. So we've talked about the marijuana recreational bills and the problems they present in previous podcasts. So we're not going to talk about that one too much today. But Chris, I'll give you a chance to weigh in on that, but then segue into the discussion on the user fee in Connecticut, please.
Well, again, the regulators are gonna have to come to Jesus, so to speak, on marijuana. For 30+ years, our industry has incurred billions upon billions of cost. We've had drivers fired for marijuana use. The point is, we're basically at a delta where, because of the insatiable desire for the funding and the revenues that come with legalization of marijuana, that basically opens up a Pandora's box for safety-sensitive industries, especially one that is constrained in terms of labor like ours. You can't roll back the science that drove this, and that was the fact that reactivity time, longer term than alcohol, perhaps 24 or more hours later after marijuana use, it was found that there was a reactivity, a delay in activity and reactivity in airline pilots and truck drivers, and therefore the science is there. So how that's gonna rub out is gonna be interesting. Is Federal Motor Carrier Safety somehow gonna have to come up, and government gonna come up with studies that show that what they said then does not apply now? I know for a fact the stuff they're smoking now is like jet fuel compared to what they were smoking 30 years ago. So that's something they have to look into. They have to also, and this is one of the shortfalls, they should have come up with the testing and accurate testing and measurement of marijuana use before they let this horse out of the barn, so to speak. It's going to be incredibly interesting. As I said, I'll repeat this, 55,000 or so positive drug tests in the clearinghouse in 2020, mostly marijuana. 34,000 of those have said to the industry, we're not coming back. It's not worth it. With all the things that truck drivers put up with, you can't go home and leisurely have a marijuana cigarette on Saturday night and report to duty on Monday. Right now the law says no. I think they're gonna have to, again, resolve this in some form. It's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out.
Yeah, one of the interesting fallouts of the pandemic, Chris, talking to numerous clients in different industries, for the most part, it appears that business is back. Talking to business owners, they're busy. They got a lot of business.
Yeah.
I've actually talked to numerous business owners in the last several weeks that are turning away growth opportunities because of a shortage of labor, which everybody's feeling, and a shortage of supply, which is a direct reflection of the shortage of truck drivers and the shortage of trucks on the road because there's not enough drivers to drive those trucks. So anybody that's working on their house right now is feeling it because they're being told by their contractor not only is the cost of material going up, but the lead time to get that material is several weeks out. Any comment on that?
Well, you've got American Airlines has planes against the fence. Trucking has trucks against the fence. I think people are constrained, and the net effect of this compounded again by legalization of marijuana, which has become culturally acceptable. I don't know that they've measured the consequences, but clearly most businesses are feeling the pinch, certainly of the labor constraint, but again, in our industry is compounded by the fact that driving truck is a lifestyle change. You're away from home. You're away from home. You have to be physically fit. You could lose your career by some medical condition that you're no fault of your own. So it's a very challenging industry, and we're going to have trouble getting good drivers, especially now. We're trying to get 18 to 21-year-olds behind the wheel. I don't know. A lot of 18 to 21-year-olds right now, they're the ones that are smoking weed, and I'm not sure they're willing to give up their joint to go drive a truck across country. It's a problem.
It is a problem. And so on top of that, we've got driver shortage, we got trucks against the fence, we got supply shortages across the country, and now the state to our left on the map decides to pass a highway user fee, and you being, I will call it the countrywide expert on truck-only tolling,
yeah,
and your battle here in Rhode Island against that legislation.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about the user fee?
Well, I think the user fee and its implementation bodes well for us. I think Ned Lamont kicked the tires on truck-only tolling, It didn't go anywhere, most likely because they read the tea leaves on a decision that's likely to come soon on the truck-only tolling. And the crux of the argument, whether it be truck-only toll, whether it be fuel tax, diesel or gas, whether it be a vehicle miles tax, whether it be a toll, or whether it be a weight distance user fee like for trucks, the crux of the matter here is going to play out in our court case is, it's called approximation of use. And in plain English, if you're using it, whether you got 4 tires on a 5,000-pound car or you get 18 wheels on an 80,000-pound truck, there is a shared use. It's called approximation of use. And the bottom line is, if you're gonna charge a truck $10, you damn well better and have to legally, according to the Dormant Commerce Clause, clearly put some sort of placekeeper on cars. That, unfortunately, is the political third rail for most politicians. They don't want to fess up, nor do they want to level with the public and say that if we're going to put a funding scheme in place, again, any type of funding scheme, it's going to be a shared burden, and the public has to feel some sort of obligation and pain. So I think that Rhode Island is going to have a great effect on whether Connecticut's law is legal, how it plays out in terms of shared burden with cars. Can you just put a weight distance on trucks? I don't believe so. I think that the bigger picture, I talked to Joe Scully last week, my counterpart in Pennsylvania. These truck-only programs are based on trucks do all the damage. Well, much like they did in Rhode Island, they carved out by federal highway standards, they carved out and exempted the heaviest trucks, and those would be 3-axle delivery dump trucks carrying 76,000 pounds of gravel on 3 short axles. And they went after the much lighter on 5-axle tractor trailers going through the state, which contradicted the basis of their argument, trucks do all the damage. You can't say trucks do all the damage, then give a free pass to the ones that by engineering standards would probably do more damage than the ones you're tolling. Similarly, in Connecticut, some bonehead gave them an exemption on milk trucks. Trucks in Connecticut can not exceed 80,000 gross vehicle weight rating, which is the federal bridge formula. They gave dairy milk trucks, tractor trailers, an exemption and authorization to carry 100,000 pounds, and they also exempted those, the heaviest trucks carrying milk. So again, it undermines the basis of their argument that trucks do all the damage, which we know trucks don't do all the damage. Degradation of roadways, lack of maintenance, weather, poor construction practices, it goes on and on and on, the least of which is damage by trucks.
Thank you, Chris. You know,
So I did want to speak to something though, and this goes to the greater picture of the ignorance. Your governor, not mine, said, quote, the trucking lobby, in response to this legislation, the quote was made by Ned Lamont. He said, the trucking lobby is threatening to have drivers go around Connecticut because of the new highway user fee. That's fine. We'll have less air pollution, safer and better quality roads, and less people with asthma. It looks like the highway user fee is already working. Can you think of anything more short-sighted and ignorant for a public official to say about the trucking industry and the value, what it pays to your state, the taxes, the fees it pays to your state, that actually contributes to the roadways, the truck stops, what they're generating for you guys, you in terms of all the things they bring in. You basically just drain the blood out of you basically endorse the draining of the blood out of your state's circulatory system. It goes hand in hand with the boneheaded, short-sighted and ignorance that we dealt with 6 years ago to the present of the Rhode Island leadership that had no clue about the industry that they were attacking and taxing. They had no actuarial information, no data, no facts. All they did is lie, and you got the same thing going on here.
thank you for that. You know,
Think I'm a little passionate about this?
well, we love trucks.
Yeah, we do.
And you know, I feel as we continue to talk and as we continue to do these podcasts, the number of advocates in the room of the truckers is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And you know, I just can't help but think, because you say it all the time, Chris, trucks deliver everything that we need.
Everything.
They deliver the toilet paper that was in shortage last year. They deliver the masks. They deliver the medical supplies. They deliver everything. And if you are listening at home, to cut to the chase, what this means for you is you're gonna be paying $10 a cup of coffee, or $20 for a gallon of milk. Everybody's up in arms about the cost of lumber. Well, think about that applied across everything that you purchase and everything you buy, and what that's gonna mean for how much money is left in your bank account at the end of the year. If there's not more advocates like you and I, Chris, trying to help these truckers, trying to be proactive and keeping them out of trouble, keeping money in their operation so they can run, that's the reality that we face down the road. Would you say not?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a spineless way to tax the public without them feeling it's death by a thousand cuts. A penny here, 2 pennies here. Next thing you know, your beer is costing you $8 for a just a mug of lager in an Irish pub, which is something we're not too familiar with, I don't think. But the point is, when it's going to hit home, in my opinion, is when a statement like this by a governor that attacks our industry is met with the industry, in fact, probably inflicting some pain on the consumer, whether it be through prices increasing, not by any concerted collusion activity, just by the fact that it has to goddamn go up and this is the way it is, and the cost of living and the cost of us delivering is too much, or simply trucks doing what he said. Trucks saying we're not going to that state, and therefore your freight index goes through the ceiling because less trucks are traveling there, less trucks are taking loads there to and from, and basically, what if trucks decided they're going to shut down the day before, July 2nd, this Friday before 4th of July? What is your 4th of July now? Your beer isn't there, your hot dogs aren't there, your fireworks aren't there, your lobsters aren't there, you name it. So again, the short-sightedness and ignorance of this, it's epidemic, and it needs to stop. And I don't know if it's going to stop in the courts. It just might have to stop out on the roads when the consumer feels the pain, and they finally take out that pain on the elected officials.
Right, thank you. Well, we love trucks. I love trucks.
I love trucks too, and it's a privilege to represent this great industry and have great partners.
Same, and I'm just loop back because insurance renewals are going to take place in the second half of the year here. One thing we reiterated in our training last week: do not wait until it's time for your renewal. Right now, you have to be your best advocate. You have to be proactive. You have to start well in advance of an insurance underwriter ever taking a look at your account. Like much of what we do, Chris, is you have to put some thought into it ahead of time to prevent yourself from getting in trouble. And so to the trucking community out there, to the fleet operators, there's so many industries that rely on trucks to do what they do, not just pure trucking companies. You can feel like the deck is stacked against you right now, and that's one of the reasons we run this podcast, is to give you some glimmers of hope. Know that there's someone in your corner. Reach out to Chris. He'll help any trucking industry member that he can. I'll do the same from my seat. But
develop partners. It's never too late to start developing the course for 1, 2, 5, 10 years out. And it's about developing a team of resources. That's what we do more than anything as a trucking association. We have the resources, the network of people, whether it be Federal Motor Carrier Safety, the insurance agent, the insurer, the state police in Rhode Island or other states, consultants, trainers, you name it. We have the tentacles reach very far. Develop those partnerships, not only just from an insurance standpoint, but from your safety culture. Don't be so proud as a safety director, either whether you're an owner that says, I got a safety guy that can do that. No, that person needs support in so many ways. And if you're the safety director and you're too proud to step into a training or say you need a little help, then shame on you.
I'll leave you on that. Have a very happy 4th. God bless America. God bless the USA. Chris, it's always a pleasure. Look forward to connecting with you after the 4th.
Likewise. Thank you for everything.
Take care.
Take care.